I never imagined I'd leave America. I was the kind of person who followed all the steps: marriage, two wonderful kids, a quiet suburban home, and a stable job. My days were predictable: brewing coffee each morning, driving to work, tidying up the kitchen in the evenings, then watching TV until bedtime. From the outside, everything looked fine, but on the inside, I was slowly becoming invisible. When the kids grew up and moved out, the house became unbearably quiet. After the divorce, no one was there to ask what I wanted for dinner anymore. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt genuinely happy. It wasn't that I hated life in America, I just didn't feel like I belonged there anymore. One night, almost on a whim, I opened my laptop and typed into Google, "Where can I live a simpler, more peaceful life and start over after 50?" The name Vietnam kept appearing. I knew almost nothing about Vietnam, just coffee with condensed milk, motorbikes, long beaches, and warm smiles. Just a few weeks later, I booked my flight. One afternoon in March, I landed in Hoi An, alone. Nobody was waiting for me at the airport. I had no itinerary, no clear plans. All I had was a vague feeling that this was something I needed to do. And so at age 55, I did it. I arrived in Hoi An during the rainy season. As my plane touched down, big droplets of rain tapped rhythmically against the window, gently reminding me that I was now someplace utterly foreign. Riding in a taxi toward my temporary home, I stared out the window and quietly wondered, what am I doing here? The first few days were harder than I'd anticipated. When I stepped onto the busy streets to buy groceries for the first time, the chaotic rush of motorbikes left me frozen, overwhelmed. I couldn't speak Vietnamese, and the shopkeepers couldn't speak English. I resorted to hand gestures, but mostly got puzzled looks accompanied by shy smiles. In the evenings, as the noise of the motorbikes faded away, my small rented room felt terrifyingly silent. Sitting alone by the window, hearing only water dripping softly from the roof, loneliness began to creep in. I missed America, the familiar scent of my old wooden house, the street I'd walked every morning, the casual chats with friends who always thought I was okay, even when I wasn't. Loneliness woke me often at night. I found myself questioning my decision repeatedly, wondering if this was the craziest thing I'd ever done. Sometimes I wanted to call someone familiar, but the drastic difference in time zones made communication difficult. During those early weeks, I fought an internal battle. I'd always considered myself strong and independent, but loneliness in a foreign country was something entirely different. It was the toughest challenge I'd ever faced. But then, just when everything felt too heavy, something small and unexpected happened. One morning, as I sat drinking coffee on the sidewalk, an elderly woman selling sticky rice walked by and gave me the warmest smile. She didn't speak English, and I couldn't speak Vietnamese, but in that simple, brief moment, I felt her saying to me, "Everything is going to be okay." In that instant, I knew I'd get through this. I just needed a little more patience. Day by day, I found myself adapting to the pace of life in Hoi An. I learned to slow down, listening more carefully to my surroundings, from the street vendor calling out her morning bread to the gentle ringing of bicycles through the narrow alleyways. My mornings now started with a sweet, milky iced coffee at a small cafe near my home, where the owner quickly learned my taste. Less sugar, a little extra milk. She didn't speak much English, but she always smiled warmly and asked simply, "Today okay?" That simple question made me feel I was slowly becoming part of this community. At first, I was hesitant to enter local markets, but gradually my confidence grew. I learned to point at fresh fruits and vegetables, to bargain gently with gestures and smiles. The women in the market, initially curious and cautious, soon recognized me, always slipping something extra into my bag. Some fresh herbs, a few scallions, or a ripe golden mango. I also became accustomed to waking early, stepping out as the ancient town was still softly blanketed in mist. Walking along the Thu Bon River, taking deep breaths as the first rays of sunlight touched my face, I felt truly alive, more alive than I had in years. Hoi An didn't just teach me to slow down, it helped me rediscover joy in life's smallest details. I began practicing yoga, taking Vietnamese cooking classes, and learning simple phrases like thank you or delicious. Every day felt like a gentle lesson, bringing me closer to authentic living. Then one April afternoon, sitting on my porch watching the peaceful street life, I realized something powerful. For the first time in many years, I no longer felt lonely. Perhaps I was still alone, but the crushing isolation had quietly disappeared, replaced instead by a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for having the courage to leave behind the familiar, and gratitude for Hoi An's gentle, healing presence. At 55, I discovered it's never too late to start again. Hoi An didn't give me a perfect life, but it gave me a chance to be reborn. I used to think big life changes should happen when you're younger and stronger, but I realized that it was precisely at my weakest, loneliest moments that I finally understood what I truly needed: a simpler life, daily small joys, and a sense of peace I'd lost during my rushed years in America. Now I no longer wake up in the middle of the night questioning myself. Instead, I awake each morning with quiet excitement, as though each day were a gift waiting to be unwrapped. I've even resumed journaling, something I'd abandoned years ago. I write about every precious, simple lesson Hoi An has taught me, slowing down, listening deeply to myself, and appreciating every present moment. Through my story, I want to share this message with anyone who might feel stuck. You don't have to remain trapped in familiar places that no longer fit. Listen bravely to your heart, and if it tells you to go, then go. Life opens widely for those brave enough to step forward. I chose to live my second life in Hoi An, and it was the best decision I've ever made.